famed Mr. Drippy Teapot Mystery Series. Featuring a sleuth, creamer, and sugar sap. These non-violent puzzle books take place in Vermont and Rhode Island, exposing some of the regional mores specific to the bed and breakfast set. He credits his writing with helping him overcome the shyness he suffered as a young child as a result of his extreme and apparent unattractiveness. Known for his subdued shirts and passionate support for the San Francisco Giants, all of a sudden that's sacrosanct. He hates cats and cooking. The fact that you're laughing only proves this man needs no introduction because you all already know exactly who he is. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Crais.
Mr. Teapot. That's next year's book.
Look at me doing all the heavy lifting for you already. Go for it. All right, so you have a favorite story, or I have a favorite story of yours, which I thought you could share with everybody here, which is what happened to your childhood comic book collection?
Okay, Gregg writes comic books. That's why he's interested. I was a huge comic book fan. I was a, we're here at a mystery convention, which is created by and for mystery fans. Well, I've been in one kind of fandom or another my entire life, and it started with comic book fandom. And I had an enormous comic book collection. I had more comics than anyone in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's 17,000 books. And I wanted to be, but see, I took a left turn toward hell because I developed this obsession with writing, and I wanted to be a writer. And I was writing and submitting short stories from as far back as probably 10th grade, and getting rejection after rejection after rejection. And there was this writer's workshop then finally, when I was in college in Louisiana, there was a writing workshop in Michigan that I wanted to attend, but it was really expensive. So I sold my collection, and my collection was like great. It had all those early comic books, like Spider-Man #1 and Fantastic Four #1, and all these things from what's called the Silver Age. And I sold them for like next to nothing because I was desperate to get to this writer's workshop. And so that's where they went. I sold them and I went to the writer's workshop. And then years later, I started moaning and pissing around the house one day because God, I sold them for nothing. Jesus Christ, look at this. Spider-Man #1's worth $20,000 now. I sell it for $1. And I'm going on, and my wife says, take a breath. It worked out for you.
I love how that story kind of illustrates the transition from reader to writer, like all the hopes and dreams you pinned on it. It's such a great story. It's also the story that doesn't wind up where it doesn't work out for you. Like you can't tell that whole story and then nothing ever came of it. It's like pretty much guarantees some level of success if you're going to sell 17,000 comics. All right, so what is your desert island book?
The one book I would want on a desert island if I were cast away.
If you were cast away, which could happen at any moment.
Old Man in the Sea.
Old Man in the Sea?
Old Man in the Sea. I'm a huge Hemingway admirer, and I think that's one of the, actually, for real, I reread that book every probably 3 or 4 years. I find Hemingway intensely inspiring. I love the leanness and the tightness of his language.
Plus that one can help you figure out how to eat.
Yeah, or catch a big fish.
All right, so there's a lot of people here who have a lot of regard for your craft, and so I thought you could maybe let them in on one aspect of it. So I wanted to ask you, what is the trick to making the perfect pulled pork sandwich? It's actually your primary art form.
Aren't you glad you came? Okay, the perfect pulled pork sandwich. The trick is in taking your time to heat the meat.
How many hours? Because there's a lot of discussion about this.
You want to heat it low and slow.
All right.
Never more than 225 degrees. Are you taking notes? You want the coals to be just right, and you have to put the meat on the grill. It's nice and easy and ready. Very slowly, 22 hours. It has to heat for 22 hours. If it heats for 22 hours, you'll achieve nirvana.
Then 23, it just goes horribly awry.
Throw it in the
turns it Okay, so you famously will not sell the film rights to Elvis and Joe. I was wondering if there was any sum of money that would make you switch from being a Dodgers fan to being a San Francisco Giants fan.
Only if they change their names to the Dodgers.
Keep trying, man. Keep trying to get away from the dark side. So, you've obviously done okay for yourself, but if you won a $1 billion lottery, unlimited money, would anything change in how you approach your work?
No.
Not a thing.
Nothing.
How about in how you approach your life?
No.
All right.
Short interview.
That's all we have, folks. Beatles or Stones?
Elvis. What else can I say?
Ross or John D?
Daschle.
Football or baseball?
Baseball.
Batman or Superman?
Spider-Man.
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 Summer or Winter Olympics?
Summer.
Nancy Drew or Veronica Mars? The Shield or The Wire?
The Shield.
Boxers or briefs?
Neither.
So, will you guest blog for me?
No.
Will you blurb my self-published ebook about fairies?
No.
Will you endorse my fanfic short story in which Elvis has sex with Stephanie Plum?
No.
With Harry Bosch?
No.
Has sex with a unicorn?
No.
You want to hear my great idea for an Elvis Cole book?
No.
Will you appear at my local Elks Club meeting to discuss your vision for success?
No.
My cousin wrote this great
No.
first chapter. Will you?
No.
All right. It's going to be that kind of interview.
It's going to be that kind of interview.
Do you ever forget characters from your books?
All the time. Elvis who?
Have you ever had a really passionate fan come up to you and start discussing some plot twist or an aspect of the book and you can't remember it?
Yeah, I have no idea what they're talking about. You people know my books much better than I do. And it's for real because, you know, like Monkey's Raincoat, I wrote 20 whatever years ago, so I've forgotten. But people who read it 2 months ago, they remember, so they come up and ask questions. And I actually, a few years ago, had to go back and reread some of the books. But that was problematic because I go back and I reread them and I pick up a pen because I want to. Well, I can't do that. But now I have a friend who's also a fan of my work, and she actually made a Bible of the Elvis Cole series, so I can refer to it when it brings up.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
What form? What do you mean Bible? Like an e-file or
Pages.
just all compounded? So you
Yeah, everything, book by book.
Is it weird going back to read them early? I mean, aside from wanting to edit, are there things that catch you off guard? Is there stuff where...
I actually read my books, and I have no recollection of writing some of the stuff.
So you're pleasantly surprised that they're witty and...
I read them and I think, God damn, I'm good.
What's your favorite word?
Fistula.
Wow. If you couldn't live in LA, that's a $10 word. If you couldn't live in LA, where would you live?
St. Louis.
What makes you the most pleased when you're writing? Is it when you come up with a good line or a good plot twist? Like, what's the thing that you do when you're at the computer and it works that makes you want to get up and take a victory lap?
When I am so in the moment, in the scene with the characters, that I can feel them, that it feels like I'm actually there, and our realities are just one. You know, like I'm actually part of the scene. I'm in it, and I can feel them in my head. I think that's probably why I do this. You know, and by the way, that's not like my entire work day. Those things come in little flashes and little moments, a few minutes here and there. But that's when I feel almost as if I'm genuinely onto something, and I'm with Elvis or Joe or whoever it is, and that's a huge rush for me. I really enjoy it.
And when that happens, do they do things that surprise you in the moment that you haven't
No.
pre-planned?
No. They none of my books write themselves. The characters never talk to me. It feels like everything is very, very real, as opposed to the artifice of writing and revising, which, as you know, is most of writing. You know, you write it, you get it down on the page, and you go back and you make it better. But sometimes there are moments when it comes out correctly the first time, and those feel like very, very pure creative
Does that happen more the further you get in your career? Does it happen less?
No, I think it happens about writing. But I find writing becomes more difficult over time. But I think those moments don't diminish. I don't think I feel that less than before. So they're more precious now.
Is the writing, does it get harder because you're more self-critical? Like as you're going, there's more things that you want to edit?
Well, there's a variety of factors. Remember, for one thing, if you're someone who writes a series character, like I do, after 14 books, you have to dig. With each book, you dig a little bit deeper into yourself, right? To find new things to say about the characters. So just the excavation work is heavier. And then, there's just mechanical things, like I mentioned this yesterday. I have 14 books. Each book, I have two audiences. There's the people who've read every word, and there's the people who are brand new and have never read a word before. So when I'm doing something like introducing the cat, or I'm introducing Joe for the first time, I have to say enough to make the book whole and complete to a new reader, while at the same time making it interesting and non-boring to someone who's read all my work.
So Stephen King, when he wrote On Writing, he dedicated it to Amy Tan. And the reason is it was the first book that he wrote about writing, and she had a line where she said that nobody ever asks her about the writing. It's always about, her cultural background. People talk a lot about plots of characters. But when you write things that are either, within genre or interpreted as such, often you get asked less about the writing. Is there one question for you or one area that you always wish that you got asked more in interviews and don't?
No.
All right. Check, please.
This is called squirming.